I hate to say it, but I think we, the Cardano community, have little brother syndrome. We are much younger and smaller than our older relatives, Ethereum and Bitcoin. Cardano is not unlike a young polar bear who noticed the melting ice and became the very first polar bear to travel south and migrate into a forest that was populated solely by grizzlies. The old grizzlies saw this young polar bear and they didn't like it. It was the wrong color. It was built different. Its proportions were weird. They didn't know what it was, but everyone knows that grizzlies are the apex predators. So they shunned it. They made it an outcast. This made the polar bear constantly doubt itself and question why it wasn't more like the grizzlies. But what they didn't know, what even the polar bear didn't yet know, is that polar bears grow to be huge, massive, powerful Goliaths that dwarf grizzlies on every single metric. When the day came that the polar bear looked around and realized it was dominating the grizzlies, its only regret was that it took so long to realize that it's actually better in that forest to be a polar bear than a grizzly. Ready? Let's go. Today, we are going to discuss how huge and truly talented the team behind Cardano is, a new talent acquisition by IOG, the new ledger integration, Demeter Run, a dark prediction for DAOs, JP Morgan with a first, Goldman's new crypto classification system, and something very useful for metaverse projects at Jpeg Store. If you're confused why this Goliath of a polar bear is sauntering along this gravel embankment instead of cavorting around with a bunch of Coke bottles and penguins, those are actually totally different polls, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Today, Cardanians reminded all of us, I think, of something that's pretty easy to forget. Cardano probably has the most powerful team in all of crypto behind it. I don't know if it's actually the largest because I have no idea how many employees something like a Consensus might have in New York. But as far as the overall power of the team, its ability to actually get things done in crypto, I can't think of any organization that's more powerful than IOG with its global network of the very best academics who could possibly be addressing conceptual innovation in crypto and its gigantic team of engineers building on top of that theoretical foundation. I can't imagine how you could construct a team this big and this talented in crypto. I think all of us in Cardano, we're just kind of the lucky recipients of that situation you talk about where you love something like crypto and you say to yourself, I wish a crazy billionaire would come along, start a gigantic super team, a gigantic A team of the best people on the academic side, on the engineering side, everything in between, and just build out the most theoretically advanced, best executed blockchain possible. But at the same time, we're still young. Cardano is still really young compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're still a young blockchain. We haven't had as much time to grow. We are that polar bear who leaves the Arctic, wanders into a forest full of grizzlies, and wonders to itself, why am I so different than the grizzlies? Why can't I be more like the grizzlies? I should second guess everything I instinctually do that's different than the things that the grizzlies do. But the polar bear isn't aware, and the grizzlies aren't aware that the polar bear will grow to be way bigger, more powerful, more dominating than any grizzly in that forest. The polar bear is just different genetically. It's a better setup to create the biggest, most powerful bear in the forest. That's what Cardano is right now. And IOG already knows this. I feel very strongly that IOG, they already know what Cardano is, but I think we in the community forget. A lot of people in the Cardano community look at those grizzly bears and say, the grizzly bears are much bigger than us. Therefore, we should be doing what the grizzly bears do. We shouldn't do polar bear things. We should do what grizzly bears do. But if we do what grizzly bears do, we'll just kind of become a grizzly bear. I don't think we should be a grizzly bear. We've got the genetics of a polar bear. Let's let Cardano grow into that giant Goliath of a dominating polar bear. Here's a good example of that crazy, rabid hyper growth that Cardano is experiencing now, has experienced in the past, and will continue to experience. Tim Harrison says, welcome to the Input Output HK team, Vinishri_Rao. And we see this article. Academic who led Mina protocol development joins Cardano. Input Output Global has appointed Dr. Vinishri Rao as its head of applied cryptography. Dr. Vinishri Rao is a PhD in cryptography from UCLA and previously the cryptography lead at Mina Protocol. You've heard Charles talk with glowing praise about Mina Protocol in a bunch of different AMAs. She says, I am so thrilled that I am now part of IOG that built Cardano. I have always been a huge admirer of the approach that project took, scientific rigor informing development. This is the kind of person who could have gone on to work on any blockchain in the entire crypto space, any blockchain that's actually interested in cryptographic innovation, innovation in crypto, let's say. She could have gone to work for any of the big important blockchains. She chose Cardano because she sees that Cardano is the young polar bear that's going to grow to be bigger and more powerful than all of those old grizzlies in that forest. You know what else crypto polar bears need? They need for their Ledger hardware wallets to work with their smart contracts. And now we have that too. Ledger says, hey, Cardano users, Cardano app version 5.0.0 Babbage is now available to download in Ledger Live. This experimental app can be installed alongside the regular V4 app to make Plutus smart contract transactions. And they give you a little screenshot. Yes, this means you can now, at least experimentally, use your Ledger with Cardano Plutus smart contracts. This is a big step forward. I'm not going to lie. I am a super heavy hardware wallet user. I try to keep everything on hardware wallets, and it hurts me in my heart that I have to keep some of my assets outside of my hardware wallets to interact with Cardano smart contracts. It looks like that is changing right now experimentally, which I'm sure means will be permanently changed non-experimentally soon. If you don't have a hardware wallet, there is an affiliate link down below in the description box. That means I make a small commission if you buy that affiliate link. But if you don't have a hardware wallet and you're keeping a sizable amount of crypto somewhere, I strongly suggest you get a hardware wallet. Even if it's not a Ledger, just get a decent hardware wallet of some type. Doesn't even have to be a Ledger. If you want a Ledger, link below, affiliate link. But it doesn't need to be a Ledger. Just get a hardware wallet. You're much less likely to lose all of your funds through certain types of attacks if you put your funds on a hardware wallet. Speaking of newfound functionality, how about a cloud environment with all the tools for building and deploying your Cardano dApp? If that sounds interesting to you, then you might want to check out this thread introducing you to Demeter Run. They say, hello world, ready to code in Cardano? Quick intro, Demeter Run. Demeter has all the Cardano infrastructure that you need in one place, access to Cardano Node, DB Sync, Ogmios, and more to come. No setup required. Create a project and get access to any of the tools. Demeter is also a development workspace ready to start coding. Don't waste precious hours setting up Cabal, Nix, GHC, etc. Get a ready-to-use environment to start coding in Haskell, Plutus, or any of the other available stacks. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, you probably want to check out this thread. This next item is something I've touched on many times before, and it's something I wish wasn't the case. But the way DAOs are currently structured and operating, a lot of DAOs may get smashed as regulators will just view them as on-chain corporations who sold early-stage securities to non-accredited investors. Why do I wish that wasn't true? Because I honestly still believe that DAOs can outcompete every corporation on Earth. I think appropriately structured DAOs can outcompete every corporation on Earth, probably at every single use case of every corporation. I think it's just a better structure than corporations. However, that doesn't mean that regulators are going to allow that. And here's the problem. Regulators are just going to apply the same old regulations that were formulated for corporations or entities that look like corporations to DAOs. And that's not going to work for the reasons outlined in this thread. So Gabriel Shapiro says, to survive regulatory attacks and credibly serve politically acceptable public policy goals, DAOs and political governance must change. And here's the important part. They need to be broken up to look less like a single cohesive enterprise where success is measured in one direction, economic benefits to governance tokens, which is monolithic governance, and turned into self-help mechanisms for diverse mini communities, pluralistic governance. So you can read this thread for more details on a lot of this, but I think this explains quite a bit. To prevent securities law issues, system rewards would also flow through these sub-DAOs rather than being monolithic. This way, they are more like user rebates than like profits to a business. So if you just have a DAO and the DAO has governance tokens and the profits from the business the DAO is running go to those governance token holders, what's being offered here is that that's going to look a lot like a corporation. And regulators aren't going to be cool with that. They're going to say that doesn't just look a little bit like a security that shouldn't have been sold to non-accredited investors. That looks exactly like a security that shouldn't have been sold to non-accredited investors. I think the right thing, not the legally optimal thing, but the right thing as far as the philosophy of where crypto should go, is that DAOs should just replace corporations. That's what I honestly think. In a lot of cases, I'm sure you can come up with some cases where you can convince me that corporations maybe are better than DAOs for some weird reason. But I think in a lot of cases, DAOs should just replace corporations. I think it's a better, more efficient way to run that type of business entity. But that doesn't mean that the regulators are going to be okay with it. In fact, if they just apply the same sort of corporate regulations, especially in the securities law arena, then a lot of DAOs are going to get smashed because they do exactly what he's telling you not to do. They just issue governance tokens, and the governance tokens holders have these revenue streams that make them look exactly like securities in a corporation. He says, if we don't evolve toward this, regulators and politicians are going to shred us. Many DAOs currently just look like businesses and suffer many of the same agency and conflict of interest problems as corporations, but in most respects have fewer protections than corporations. I do believe he's correct about all this. I think a lot of DAOs are doing what DAOs probably should be doing, replacing corporations, but that doesn't mean that regulators aren't going to come around and they're going to want to smash. In case you haven't figured it out, this is the unsavory news section of the video. This poster says, unpopular take, banks will be as important to crypto adoption as newspapers were to the internet. Not very. Porting legacy processes into blockchain isn't cool. Disruptive tech opens new design space that is best explored by startups, not incumbents. And the news that some of you will find unsavory is this. JP Morgan executes its first DeFi trade using public blockchain. Bloomberg tells us that JP Morgan used Polygon and modified Aave, and they issued tokenized 100,000 Singaporean dollars, I think $71,000 USD, as part of the Singapore Central Bank's pilot programs exploring the use of decentralized finance, or DeFi, in the banking sector, then traded it for tokenized yen. Some of you will find this to be a horror show. Some of you are probably applauding this as the herd, the financial herd, finally making its way to the shores of crypto. That doesn't make any sense. Herds don't really swim. It's like the giant school. I don't know, but the herd has arrived. If you like that last news, you're going to love this. Goldman is now going to tell you exactly what kind of cryptocurrency it is that you're involved with. Goldman Sachs seeks to impose order on the expanding crypto universe with classification system. I love it. Of course, it's Goldman who will impose order upon us. Goldman Sachs is set to unveil a data service created with global index provider MSCI and crypto data firm Coinmetrics that seeks to classify hundreds of digital coins and tokens so institutional investors can make sense of the new asset class. The new service is called, get ready for it, Datonomy, a play on the word taxonomy. Oh, Goldman, you're so clever. Data plus taxonomy. It probably only took you 7 focus groups and 13 different committees to come up with that. I'll bet you're so proud of your combination of the words data and taxonomy. But I'm sure many of you are looking forward to this so that Goldman can finally impose order upon you and let you know exactly what category your favorite crypto assets fall into. Back to the bright, sunny, blue skies of Cardano. See, the unsavory news section is now over. Jpeg Store says bundles are here. Siren. No, siren is the noise thing. What is this? This is the... What do we call this on top? I don't even know what the light part is called. You are now able to gather up to 10 different NFTs from the same policy and list them as a bundle on Jpeg Store. Hoping this makes your life easier, especially when handling metaverse projects. And you can tell this is like aimed pretty squarely at metaverse projects. What happens is people acquire a bunch of adjacent parcels in a metaverse project. And of course, they want to sell those together because in certain metaverses, if you can connect a bunch of parcels, you can do special things on that land, or just having a bunch of parcels next to each other sometimes is more valuable than not. And now you can sell those all together. I'm sure this will be very welcome news for anyone who is transacting in metaverse properties on Jpeg Store. I hope you had a great week. I hope you're getting ready for a fun weekend, either fun or productive or reflective or whatever is valuable to you. And I will talk to you soon.